Hey, how are you, sir? Thanks.
Hey, Jamie, could you text Morgan, please? And since she said she created those Zoom links, but they weren't, I just created some. But Sheldon, well, you know what I mean? He'll need links. I'm emailing Sheldon some links for the ones I just created. But you know what I mean? I don't know if he checks his email. So if you let him know, that would be great. Thank you.
Bryce said he's stuck in traffic, so he might not be here on time for the work meeting.
I think it's urgent.
Yes.
Well, everywhere you go, my wife said they want to go on vacation, so apparently we want to go on vacation. So.
Good.
Hello. Okay, this is really a plain question. You know how we have public hearings, because we have to. But if they come and they're not changing any zoning, like, why does the state make us do them? It's just a question, sticking on the wheel. Because what if someone stands up and says, I don't want these houses here? Is this already being recorded? Okay. Are we already online?
Yeah.
Everyone's hearing me say that? Okay. That's fine. Okay, oh yeah, that's true. That's true, we can't see. That's why I said.
Guys, do you want to do some sort of initiation here?
Yeah,
first meeting.
ice bucket challenge or.
It's hot
hot
enough.
Yeah, it's hot enough.
You'll oblige.
Sure. Does seem like that really hot, just really quick.
Yeah, we go from winter, we get about 3 days of spring and then Christmas.
Excited going on with this map. We can't open this map now.
Just changed.
Yeah, because it's gonna have to go in, I guess, and I don't know what to do. You can't, you takes it, so it takes everything, open this mouth, but oh no. I guess you have a disc here between your jaw, it's moved and.
Sheldon said he couldn't get in, or someone needs to let him in the Zoom meeting because they're clicking the wrong link.
Probably because he's on the wrong link because he's not.
Did you send it to my email?
I emailed him I emailed him the new links, but yeah, I don't have anyone in the waiting room here, so he's probably on, which is weird because either me and Morgan are logging into different Zoom accounts or Zoom like meetings aren't saving because every time I log into the Zoom that we use, no meetings created. So makes me wonder what's happening there. But yeah, I sent him some new ones. His email. Be able to join.
Yeah, I know.
That was really nice.
Everybody's hiding.
You said Bryce said you'd be a little late.
So that- Says he's in the new one. You just emailed that he's still waiting.
You think there's two of them I emailed. I bet she's in the other one.
He said the one he just,
Well, I had to email him a work meeting one, then I had to email him a meeting one. So if he clicked I had to email him the work meeting Zoom, and then I had to email him the planning commission
so
Zoom.
that's different.
So if he they're different. So if he opened the first email, it's really the one right before it. Like killing him.
Plus technology.
Yeah. Cause he's not in this waiting room either. It's the one titled work meeting, not planning commission. Sorry, I'll have to work that out with Morgan. Like I said, it's happened twice now where she's like, I created links and I log in and they're not. She created meetings and I log in and they're not there. So like I said, we're either using different accounts, which would be weird, or you know what I mean? I don't know.
I've never worked on this.
I don't know why they don't save the meeting she's creating, why they don't save when I log in. I can't view them. There he is. It's third link later. Sheldon, 3 links later. Hey Sheldon, third link is the charm.
We made it.
There we go. And now that we have a storm, I guess Bryce is gonna be late. And Blake's not gonna be here. And Amanda not gonna be here.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we can start our work meeting. We have a few items. We can discuss these agenda items first, and then Malcolm has some stuff prepared for us on the ADU structure and things like that that we talked about a few meetings ago that he can get into, and then some stuff on flag lots. So as far as the minutes looked, I looked over them. I didn't see anything that needed to be corrected. Did anyone else?
I don't know how you do. My name's misspelled on all of them, on the ends to the O-N. It's a big deal.
A Danish version.
Yeah. So. Okay, it's not, I don't care. It's just a matter of somebody can see it and say, oh. Yeah, it's not. It's an E-N, yeah.
Thank you.
And my mom's family's a Jensen, so I
So
know what you're going through.
So my satellites can see it.
So minutes look okay. That first item of business, the conditional use permit for the daycare. Is the structure already built, or is it going to be built?
Yeah, she's wanting to get her CUP before she does it.
The structure, okay.
Yeah, and really the structure wouldn't require a CUP or anything. It's small. What was it, 30 by 25 or something? Like under 900. It's a little building.
Yeah.
And this is going behind our house.
Yeah.
Yeah, off to the side, based off the,
Yeah, go by.
behind your house.
Is the shed existing?
Must be, yeah. She called it out because she didn't have an application for it. One thing to note, you will see the dimension. She drew her dimensions on that school. I think she called it 25 by 30. That's different than her application. It's like 5 feet bigger. But again, the size isn't the issue. It's just the use. So
Yeah, from everything there. I guess just the number of students, which I think she said.
She had like 5 or 6, he said.
if you look at that little note, she's gonna do 2 shifts, an AM and a PM, 10 each. Our ordinance allows 12 for that size at a time. Well, it just says 12 students. That would be 10 at any time, 20 total, but anyway. And then only other thought with that one, and it's probably not super relevant. And her plan is to do a half-day kindergarten in there, which per my recommendation that I would probably she was gonna do it as like a public schoolhouse, but that would be pretty complex. I mean, because kindergarten is not required, right? So it's really, I just said I would just do it as a daycare. And if you want to teach some curriculum, have at it. If you don't, you know what I mean? But so really, the age will be like 5 to 6 year olds that, want a half day kindergarten option where they can go.
Okay.
And then it's going to have plumbing, they'll have electricity. And there's a little bathroom on there she showed. And then I asked, it was not an application. I did ask how she was going to cool it. She had mini splits. I don't know if those mini splits provide heat, if they've got a heat pump on them.
They'll do both.
Yeah, so
They look pretty good too.
sounds like I don't know. Anyway, so that's her
I
plans.
looked over her website. Seems like she is qualified.
What, is there any issues, because it's a business, but it's not in her home? So if you have a separate building that's commercial, that she lives in a residential zone, is there any issues with that?
I guess not so long as you guys grant this permit. But yeah, otherwise it would be, it wouldn't match zoning, but it's allowed, this permit's allowed as a conditional use in this zone. Is permittable.
What other stuff is allowed in a zone like that? Like I could put a motorcycle repair shop in a shed behind my house.
I don't know, we could look. I can look.
That would concern me. Because where it's not in her home, and it's not like an in-home daycare.
I think a lot of the structures, they have to have separate, and she like it has to be separate from your.
Yeah, I think you have to have a separate entrance. But where it's an actual separate structure. Just wonder what that opens the door for.
So she's in an R2 zone.
I mean, I didn't think it was any different than what the other one that we just approved like 3 weeks ago. Then
Nursery.
She's in an R2 zone right here.
daycare or that.
So we do some examples of what they're allowed or conditional in that zone. Bed and breakfast establishment would be conditional. You can kind of see.
So
She's doing her daycare, home group, conditional. Drug and alcohol, if you're aware.
Have a cemetery there too, if you want. That's
The most-
awesome.
power and sewer.
Club, social hall. Yeah, so I can't even remember the gal's name that came in, but she was.
Elenia Winter.
Yeah,
Yeah, she did something similar. I don't know if hers was home based, more in nature, I guess, but it still had a structure they were going to do activities in. So not sure how you would delineate or even regulate that, but it's definitely a consideration.
Sheldon, you have any concerns about or questions about the first conditional use permit there? The daycare?
No, I don't.
Okay. Now, into the public hearing for Kimble Estate.
That 21 lot, first 3/4 acre subdivision we've ever done. It's a new zone. We used to just have 1.5 acres, and they decided to do a 3/4 option. Most of the staff's really excited about it. They're big lots, right? And even bigger than our halves, which are already big. So it'll be a really nice subdivision. It's right next to the burnt church. They're on their third review. They're getting their preliminary approval or their final approvals from all the entities. UDOT is their main one they're finishing with that when they need in order to come next time. And they think they'll get their UDOT approval. They're on a UDOT road on 59. And then other than that, it's, like I said, just been through the review process. It didn't have any big complications throughout the review. It was pretty straightforward and they were very compliant. They never tried to rezone or tried to do anything different. They just tried to comply with all of our ordinances. Yeah, pretty straightforward.
Was there a drainage? Was that the one that had the drainage that they had to figure out?
There is some considerations. We've done our diligence and talked to the surrounding. It's surrounded by farm grounds on the east and on the south. Yeah, probably on the north too. That's just the church part is really on the south. But anyways, it's surrounded pretty good. And so we talked to the different property owners and there wasn't really drainage issues from their standpoint. Just they built up a berm, which we asked them to remove. We think they built the berm up with anticipations that some of those farms are flooding onto their property. Well, that's fine right now, but once the subdivision's there, that couldn't work. And so we kind of made sure all the landowners surrounding there are aware that if you did have any, if you had any flooding, now that it'll be a residential use, wouldn't be the subdivider's issue, it'd be the and right now they probably can do it and it's not that they are, they just, when they saw that berm, like, why would they put that there? They might have just been anticipating that. But if that continued, the current farm owners or landowners would have to do a berm of their own or some type of way to detain it or move it because they couldn't, push it onto homes anymore, not even onto yards. That wouldn't work. So no, nothing on their end. And they're just complying and doing their stuff. I think it's Mac Builders. It's called Mark III, but I think Mac Builders is pretty involved. He's like I think he builds out of West Point. Some of the good guys. Good project.
So is this considered a preliminary or what is this?
This will just be a public hearing, just kind of how we discussed with Rawson that seemed like you guys wanted to do public hearings on all of them. And so this one will come for final, your next meeting, I'm anticipating. But this was just so the public would have a chance to make comments prior to us approving it, right? And not approving it in the same meeting.
Okay, awesome. Have they looked at the land separation use fence? Getting that signed off or what is their plan on that?
They're going to install it. And yeah, it should be called out on the plans, but that one has evaded me a few times. So I'll double check before you see it for final that it's in because they will need it.
I saw it on the SwayZ building.
Didn't notice it on Kimble. Okay. Yeah, they're not getting it waived, so they'll need it. We'll make sure it's on there before it comes.
And these are 130-foot frontage half-acre lots?
3/4. They should be 140.
140, 3/4. Nice. I think this will be our first official 3/4 acre subdivision.
Yes.
Yeah, we're excited. Everyone's excited to see how the market takes to them.
If they talk at all, they'll look kind of price point, I think.
I mentioned it to us, no. Yeah, they're big lots for sure.
So lots of they are looking.
I think Mac Builders will take some of their own, but I do think they've kind of implied some of them will be bring your own builder.
At this point.
I think he is.
Matt came north of me as well.
Is there?
Mike Alford said with us.
I don't know his name. We've mostly been done with his partner. He's the developer.
Any other questions on that one? And then on the SwayZ subdivision, just the one lot carve off.
Same situation. He's on his third review, just going to get finals. Just a single lot or 1 acre and an R1 and he's got a land use separation fence that he'll put up, and
What was his comment on that there's land have been illegally subdivided? Has that been taken care of? I just noticed that's all been done.
yeah, yeah. I'm not aware of his having any issues standing out, so it should be good to go. There have been some comments about there being quite a bit of stuff on that lot as it stands. It's kind of I think his dad was using it to put items on, but
Right?
yeah, but the son, his name just lost me. Anyway, I think it'll get better with him building the home because he'll get in there and move some of his dad's stuff around those, it's just been an empty lot that his dad stores a few things on, but not terrible. It's not, it's just what anyone does with their empty lots, kind of just doesn't have a structure on it. So it sticks out a little more, but no real complaints from citizens. We'll see tonight, but I think it's fine.
Should be pretty straightforward. So we'll turn.
Yeah, his will be deferred improvements, by the way. No, his will be installed, excuse me. He's gonna install his sidewalk. So he will install a sidewalk because he's a single lot. That's our recommendation, at least. There's can't remember the name of that subdivision out there. Sherry, you probably know it, Skyview by SwayZ. Skyview connects right to him, so we just want him to continue the sidewalk since there's already one that abuts to his lot, yeah. So
Can we back up? Can we talk about the daycare just for a second?
sure.
Because so we're okay with a conditional use permit, but I worry when there's kids, right? Do we have to worry about anything does there need to be fire suppression in there? Is that just out of our scope, something that's none of our business? That's up to them? Okay, so.
Yeah, they'll still have to get their permit from the state, and the state sends out inspectors to make sure all that stuff is done for them to get their license on that side.
Perfect. Okay. That makes me feel better. Sorry.
No, that's great. Those you want, you're right, with kids, you want to make sure you take extra consideration. So
Sure, the fire department does an inspection as well, I would say.
yeah, Nate, our building inspector will go through all that, and he does it on site. So anything else on that one? Okay, well, we just got a little bit of time, but we have a couple things that we really wanted to chew on, and I'm really hoping you guys can take them and run with them, but I have some data to kind of help discuss it. I wanted to revisit, we brought oversized structures as a discussion point for, the fact that we're processing a lot of them. It seemed like, every meeting we have 2 or 3, and other cities kind of have a different policy, which again, I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I just brought it, and there was some interest, it seemed like, to potentially increase our size or modify our ordinance so that we didn't see. I guess the spirit of it is that we see every oversized structure, but we never deny them. So in theory, they all get approved, right? And so if we don't, I don't know. So again, that was the thought that we expressed to staff. So Plain City does no more than 25% of the rear yard. West Haven does no more than, so your oversized structure can't cover any more than 25% of your rear yard. So Plain City has it. West Haven does it the same. If they're doing stuff in the side yard, they increase the side yard and the backyard and do it. But Far West is the same, 25 or 20% of rear yard. You can't cover more than. We do ours more like this. This is what's allowed in the different zones, this range of building. You can see, an R2 can go up to 1,600 square feet, an R3/4 can go up to 18, and an R1 can go to 2,000. In my opinion, not my opinion, factually, we're way smaller allowance before we make people come get a conditional use permit. All these other cities, like 25% of a 1 acre lot, rear yard, being conservatives, about 6,800 square foot shop. But we're making anyone over 2,000 come in. So I think it's a lot of work and it's not a big deal. We can fill them that way if you guys want, but we wanted to have a good discussion on it. Then if you guys wanted to make a change, wanted you guys to be able to kind of help put that together, and I could help, maybe work with Reed and get it, whatever you guys decide you want put into code. And then we could, vote on it as a recommendation or not for the city council. And we could send it up for consideration to increase or change the way we do them. But just wanted your guys' thoughts on the process. This last comment from me, and then I hope you guys just dive into it. I initially, and probably overstepping, thought, I'll just write this, right? But probably not my place. You guys really need to decide what you guys want. I'll just give you the data, but you know, it seems easy to just say, my thought was, oh, I'll just do 25% like all the other cities. That's a big lot. It's percentage per lot, so it's across the board even. Only thought there is you would have situations, most cities don't allow any conditional uses. So if you're over your 25%, you can't do it. It's just a done deal. And so we would be changed, it'd be a substantial change for Hooper, although we would be increasing the size a ton. And I think 90% of them would just be approved. There would be an occasional, I don't know, riding arena for Perks that was like 30,000 square feet that we technically wouldn't have code to approve anymore. So not sure how you guys would want to dance around that or not, but anyway, those are my thoughts. So I just wanted to lay that out there so you guys could discuss it a little.
So if we just like doubled the square footage required to need a conditional permit, then we would still have that other control if something big came in, right?
Sure.
And that would still cover 99% of people would fall within that twice as big of square footage, right?
Yeah. Maybe I can share this screen with you and so you can see, because I think that's a good thought and might be, let me see if you can see. I'm gonna try and share. Well, no, I don't want to do that. Share this. Oh, geez, there we go. You see that, Sheldon?
It's loading up. Yep, there it is.
So in 2023, these were all of our oversized pulled, the sizes. So like you said, by doubling it, you could kind of estimate potentially how many you would eliminate application wise. I didn't pull the zones. So I guess it's not 100% accurate, meaning if these were R2 zones and you doubled it, you still, I'm not sure these were all, I think some of them were R2, some were R1, obviously, but that kind of gives you an idea of like, that was 2023. These were the sizes pulled. See, we had that big outlier and then, but most of them all of them fell under 6,200. And in 2024, all of them fell under 4,000, 3,500 probably. So yeah, that's one thought for sure.
So to clarify for me, if we did a percentage, if you did 25 or whatever percentage, are you saying that we couldn't then allow if there's a 30,000 to come in, it would be a percentage?
I guess if it was 20, well, you could do it however you want. You could allow for CUPs, but I think that would then get you back to your exact same situation where anyone who's over the 25% will just come for their CUP and you'll always approve it, which is one way to do it. It's just, or as long as they're 25%, like if they happen to have 3 or 4 acres,
Or less.
if they had a big, huge yard, a full 2-acre back, parcel, they would probably still be able to qualify on their own, roughly, I guess. But again, just
So
some
it's not
thoughts,
either or, it could actually be,
Combination.
yeah, okay.
which is what we yeah.
But we wouldn't have to have each one come in if we did a percentage, right? Unless it was over that percentage, that's.
Yeah.
If they have that, if those are 3/4 acres, most of them, that'd eliminate a lot of those. It's gonna happen even up here.
What?
What are the pros of having them come in if we're just, I mean, yeah, like, because technically if it fits within the ordinance, we legally can. Like the public can come state their concerns, but if it fits within the ordinance, it's,
I like the idea of changing it, gives some time back, right?
Yeah.
Right?
And we're not just
especially where they're just like,
through the motions.
Yeah.
if we're approving all of them.
Anyway.
Anyway, like,
It's costing
uh,
them.
yeah, you're wasting city resources and, I mean, they still have to follow all the ordinances, setbacks.
If you doubled ours, if you didn't want to go the percentages because it's what we're used to, you could, you know what I mean? You could go up to 4,000 square feet on a 1 acre and 3,600 on a half, and you'd kind of be accomplishing a similar thing. But I don't know. Or whatever.
I like, this gives you more flexibility by the doubling instead of just hey, if it doesn't fit, it doesn't fit.
I guess I would prefer like, here's 25%. If it's bigger than that, we need to look at it and see exactly what's going on. I don't know. So I would lean towards here's 25%. for lack of a better term, we come in and we approve them. It's just more efficient use of our time.
Yeah.
And if there's a giant one like Works' case, it's not that that one can't get approved, it just doesn't fall into the stuff that can just come, the automatic stuff.
How would the 25% be calculated? Who would you have them draw a plan and then, okay, and that's how it would be determined?
Yeah.
Do you guys worry at all about like consistency? Because if you've got, if you've got a half acre lot, you've got a 4,000 square foot house on it. That's a lot different spacing from that house than a half acre lot with a 1,200 square foot house, right? So something would fit a little bit differently. How do we keep that consistent? So yes,
I think you said the rear yard though.
all the rear yard.
So I guess that kind of limits, like you have a giant house on your half acre lot, that limits to the size of your shed that you could put on there, just based off the setbacks and what's available there. But I guess that feels like that setbacks and other things in the code, building an oversized structure in the back, I think your house would limit that size anyways, because it has to be, unless you're attaching to it. So. But yeah,
You could do 25% and just have agricultural buildings. You know, they could not be required to meet. That would probably open up a lot of your really big shops for some people to do an ag permit because then they'd have to have the acreage anyways to justify it, and then they wouldn't be required, but.
Is there an ordinance also with hard surface? So if you have hard surface, part of it, and is that gonna interfere if we do 25%? Is that gonna somehow
interfere with your impervious surface.
be
Yeah.
calculated into that?
Yeah, it would need to be calculated into it for sure. Yeah, we have a 65% impervious surface requirement or, maximum.
Of the entire lot.
Of the entire lot can be, yeah.
I'm more into the percentage rather than just doubling that. To me, it's easier than.
Sure.
So I guess cons of doubling is like you run into the bigger. How does that get approved, or does it just not get approved, right? Like I guess that's the con that I could see there that we'd have to address, but I don't.
It would
Think
still get
Sheldon-
approved. They would just come in.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sheldon's thought there is like you said, limit, get rid of some of the lower sized applications and still do your CUP process just for bigger ones.
The other thing to keep in mind too is right now, I mean, we have had a lot of people come in and voice their opinions on these things. And going to the 25% would allow a lot bigger structures than just doubling it.
Yeah, quite a bit
And I
bigger,
feel
than
like
triple.
I think it would leave citizens feeling like they didn't have a chance to have their voice heard, or they didn't even know this was going in. But right now, the people have to pay and have it put on the agenda, but they also are paying to have those notices go out to everybody within 600 feet to kind of make them aware. So I feel like if we moved to the 25% thing, a lot of citizens would feel kind of blindsided compared to what they get in the current process.
Well, why should we as a city be telling somebody what they can and can't put on their? Like, why are we stepping into that role, like into that person's private property rights of saying, I want to put this in there? I guess that's where I lean, is just like, I want to get out of people's lives as much as possible. But I understand that people have concerns with it. You gotta talk to your neighbors, like, I don't know. I guess that's where I stand on it. They might have a voice, but when it really comes down to that voice, if it fits within the ordinance, it doesn't matter, right? We have zero power to do anything other than what the zero legislative power to do anything other than what is written, so. I can see how that would go both ways, but
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't want to get in anybody's backyard, but I am concerned that if we almost triple the size of what can go in there just automatically, without even reviewing it, I don't know.
But do you think
But I'm with
people
you,
are
I've
just
seen
gonna
both
build
sides.
bigger because they can build bigger, or?
I don't know.
I don't know, I think the cost will ultimately dictate that. If people,
Right.
people can only afford, they afford it. Doubling it could, and again, whatever you guys decide, I'm actually gonna probably push it more towards you to compile this, and I'll help you draft it and everything, but you take the spirit of what was discussed and come up with a proposed ordinance, then you guys can process it. If doubling it could be an easy way, just to at least try something different. It would be really simple. I mean, we could draft that and, you know what I mean, just double things and then see how it goes for a while. And if we feel like, hey, we're still seeing as, you know, a lot and we're approving all of them, you could try and just go more, you know, we don't want to see them anymore. You could just do a percentage and then just draw it at that. If you go over that, no, nothing, but whatever you
Yeah,
guys
if you guys
decide.
want to email me your thoughts on, but I'm in favor of some sort of increase of what we're seeing,
Cool.
what's on there now.
Yeah, maybe if all you can email Jay so he can compile it and then you get with me and I, you know, we can kind of draft something and then you can bring it to them for presenting it for like an actual recommendation or not. So it's moving along.
Has there been much pushback in the past of neighbors for saying, we don't want this, and but is there a lot of negative feedback?
Sheldon and Bryce probably be your best.
I guess the one that comes to mind is just the one guy that had the health concerns.
Yeah, that's it.
That-
But I can think of recent history that. For a long size, it's just a construction.
Yeah, so the one of them things good.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you look at the ones that have been approved, there's not, I mean, there's a couple monsters in there, but.
Sheldon or Bryce, have you guys ever denied one? Is there any precedence for denying them?
We've never denied any. The only thing we've done is, you know, we checked heights on a couple of them. Somebody had to come back and get height basically approved a second time because they didn't tell us it was going to be as tall as it was. And another one, we asked them if they would knock it down like a foot to kind of keep it in the same size range that everyone else's has been, and they agreed. So they have been good to have eyes on these things.
And the height requirements would still be in.
25 foot.
Still the same, so it's like,
That's never been an issue, at least in my limited experience. Everyone can keep them under 25 foot pretty well, one or two, but there's never been a big complaint from anybody. For the applicants, I don't get a pulse on the citizens. I don't know if people are upset about the 25-foot height if it's too tall or, but I mean, I don't want to. All right. Well, I don't want to beat it down, but it sounds like we can compile it, go from there. And I guess kind of again, just to preface this conversation, I don't have an opinion or really, it doesn't, you know what I mean? I want you guys to do what you guys want to do. I have a good pulse on the applicants, or I guess you could call it the market, right? I'm here all day and I hear people come in and what they think and what they want. And so I just want to relay stuff to you guys so we can have a fluid, ever updating. And again, if it gets updated, great. If it doesn't, great, if that's what you decide. But I at least want you guys to be able to fill what the citizens and comments are. So another one, and we get this one often, probably 1 to 2 a week, pretty consistently, but just to share these flag lots. We get a lot of people coming in and requesting flag lots, and you guys should all be familiar with them, but just not to be patronizing, but here's an example, I suppose. Here's a home. This has got an individual looking to buy this parcel here. They would stub in, buy both, but they would stub a road in to access, not a road, stub a private access. They call it a stem generally in other ordinances. You put a stem in to access the flag portion of the lot. Right now, there's no
Hey,
ordinance.
Malcolm, can you
Yeah.
share that screen that you're working off of? I'm still
Yeah.
seeing the one that has the.
Yeah, sorry. Zoom's the worst at this. You literally have to stop share and reshare, I think, every time whenever you switch screens. There you go. You see that one yet, Sheldon?
Yep, see it now. Thank you.
Yeah, so this parcel along with this one, same owner, someone would buy it, you know, have someone they would rent, or just, you know, this home would stay and they would stub a stem and access the back portion of this lot. Currently, we don't have any ordinances to support flag lots. So we don't have anything really saying you can't do them. It's not like it's spelled out in code that says, you know, we don't allow flag lots. We just don't have any ordinances to
I'm
support
pretty
them.
sure it explicitly says in there no flag lots. I'm like 95% sure I've read that in the past.
Okay. So it may do. The way that we generally discuss it is, the way that the ordinance is written that I read is that all homes need to be have to have the minimum frontage and they have to be on a fully improved public road. So that'd be 60-foot wide, curb, gutter, sidewalk on both sides. So it's similar to like the Fisher property we saw a lot of where, they want to access the back, but they don't want to stub a full road in for one home. So I sent out some ordinances that other cities are doing, to, control flag lots, and just at a high level, a couple of the two. So we have West Point, we have West Haven, we have Plain City. Two of those three use them as process them as conditional use permits. So they don't allow them blanketly, but if they have a couple things that allow for them, things like if it's landlocked, if there's kind of the spirit of what controls that, you could read them, but the spirit of what would allow it is, let's see, special exceptions by the planning commission in any zone. If it's not feasible or desirable to extend a street, that's kind of how they make their delineation. The stems are generally 20-foot wide when they go in. They have to, all of them from my reading, need to be asphalt up to the city code or spec on asphalt paved. Plain Cities was 30-foot wide. They had landscaping on either side just to provide a little more of a, of appearance that it wasn't just a carved out of nowhere. Asphalt or concrete finish. And then they all called out a turnaround that would need to be fire approved. So a turnaround. Then some of them, this is with the discussion on some of them have like a length restriction. You can't go this far back, but some of them put the requirement based off of how close they are to a fire hydrant. So if they're willing to put a fire hydrant in, then they can go that far back. Some of them, like West Point, requires a fire hydrant within 250 feet of them. So they pretty much require one. I think West Haven, it was limited theirs to 500-foot stem road. Unless you put a fire hydrant in, then you could do more similar things like that. So you could skim through them. But I guess the thought is again, nothing for me specifically. I do build a lot of these, probably at least twice a week. We'll have someone come in and say, I want to build back here. And it's always the same conversation. You have to be on a fully improved road. You could stub a road in and build a road, and it's always the same reaction. Like, there's no way I would put a a fully improved public road back there, and then they generally don't want to. So I just wanted to get your guys' pulse on this.
One other thing, I think
Yeah.
that almost all of those call out like it's not a way around to get multiple lots in a.
Yeah, it's like a single dwelling.
Yeah, like,
One of them was two.
yeah, I think, yeah, but allowed up, maximum was 2 on one stem. But it's not just like, oh, I'm gonna put a flag lot in here and then do it.
Yeah, a couple of them too weren't for like development purposes. Like they wouldn't let you do a new subdivision and just do flag lots for the heck of it. It was like, oh, that it had to be a landlocked parcel that was inaccessible otherwise. But those are the spirits of these. But I just wanted to, similar to the oversized structure, have a discussion, see if there's any interest. If there is, I can kind of solidify it more, and then we could have another discussion, and then put it together for a recommendation or not. But again, I don't know what you guys think of allowing them or not. Just
How
curious.
often are you someone coming in?
Probably twice a week. Probably on average, yeah, 1 to 2 a week. Yeah. So it would be probably a good amount of single family homes that would open up a big, I would imagine we'd get a few on these. It wouldn't be something we approve and then we only see 1 or 2 a year. I bet we'd see, 1 or 2 a year maybe, because that's about all the single family homes. We have a long process for approval, but yeah, we would see flag lots. We wouldn't approve, put ordinance and then not see them. People would utilize it. There's
But other pieces like the part they're stemming from, it has to be substantially bigger, like it has to be at least. I read somewhere like this, a lot of those had like a size on how big that flag lot had to be.
Yeah, generally the lot has to be 100+%, like 125 or 150% larger than the zone it exists in. So if you're in an R1, you generally are gonna have to have like 1.5 acres to access it. The stem doesn't get included and not included. And I don't know what the idea behind that is. Your guess is probably as mine, but there's probably some logic. But they all did call out, about 125% of the general zone. It needs to be there. So anyway.
So, uneducated question. So currently on this one, that dirt road would be just, who owns that? That's just an easement right now, right? To that back piece of property?
This one, and not that this one's is just one example, but this person owns this little parcel and this one separately.
Okay.
But I've just for sake of discussion, it would be one parcel, right? And they'd want access, well, it'd be two, but they'd want access back here and couldn't, right? Because of the way it's
So
set up.
that stem would end up belonging to that bigger piece of property. Okay.
Yeah, and that is a good question. I guess I didn't think of that. If they have to, if you don't own both.
Can you
Well,
click
I
on
guess
that
you
one?
would generally own the stem. Yeah, Sheldon?
Can you click on that property your mouse is on? Nope, yep. So if they had to give up that stem to the bigger property, does that mean that that property would fall below 1 acre?
We'd have to
Likely.
moderate, we'd have to make so they couldn't, right? That'd have to be required. You couldn't adjust it so that you fell under our zoning, so they'd only be able to give up 0.19 acres. It theoretically, if that was the case on this one.
Or get a rezone too, if possible.
Yeah,
Yeah, that would be my only concern is who owns the stem and because it's fine if it's family members building houses behind it, we'll have it twice to sell or.
this one might not have been the best example. I'd say a lot of the times they're lacking frontage and they'll just be like a typical Utah shaped lot. And they're like, oh, I got 80 feet of frontage here, man. You can't build a home. You need, or put a road in to get all your frontage, and they don't want to. But there are some like this, I'm sure.
I would think it's something to consider just because it opens up one for kids building on dad's land easier if that's what they wanted to do. It seems
I
like,
seem to recall this being a big discussion probably 7 or 8 years ago. I believe Ryan Hill was on the planning commission at the time. So he would be a good person to talk to because I feel like he had a lot of good input on this. Also because he's the postmaster general. And it
Yeah.
seems like getting addresses for flag lots was like a nightmare for them to deal with too, which I think was part of the reason, probably one of many reasons behind why they
and
weren't
most of
excited about it.
most of the ordinances have called out like a specific, like your mailbox has to be accessible from the main road, all that sort of stuff. I know it might be hard to get a mailbox, but I don't think the government not giving out mailboxes should hinder me wanting what I want to do with my property.
I don't think that the mailbox is the issue, Jace. Let's be real here. Address numbers is the issue. If I've got two flag lots next to each other and my address ends in an 8, my neighbor's in a 6, then what fits in between there?
I don't think that's a complicated problem that they haven't figured out in like New York or some of these other bigger cities, like.
I think it's a conversation out of Ryan.
Yeah,
I can plan on it.
That's why I said it would be worth talking to Ryan Hill because he knows a lot about this and seeing what he thinks.
What was the consensus at that point? Does anybody know?
Well, they just.
I'm pretty sure that's when they put in the ordinance that there was no flag lots.
No files. I think we need to look, these are looked at for sure.
I would like looking at it more. I think Ryan would be a great person to talk to, see where they were or why they decided to go against it. Or what issues they were facing then and the issues now.
That could open up a lot of ground for people to go on.
Refresh my mind, Malcolm, did you have West Haven in there? So
Yeah, West Haven's in there.
I thought so, because I know they started with it like 5 or 6 years ago. And I think we need to look at them, look at it. Complicated.
Bryce, Travis, what were your guys' thoughts on it? Maybe you just shared your thoughts on it, but what do you want to look into it more? Or is,
Well, I like the idea of absolutely looking at it, but yeah, I'd love to pick Ryan's brain and find out what they were thinking before. Cause I like the idea of giving somebody an opportunity to put a house,
That's a good idea to talk about. There's a lot of weird
piece of property around town that would open up.
Sure. Sheldon, you, what are your thoughts on pushing it more to try and get some type of at least recommendation put forward for consideration?
I'm okay with it. I think we just gotta understand why we didn't have them in the past and make sure we're not gonna put ourselves into having issues that we had solved previously by not allowing them. So,
Sure.
but there's bound to be people out there that can benefit from it. So I'm totally open to the idea.
Guess one of the issues, how most of those are written in the spirit, it could persuade something as like, oh, we gave it to him, like a favoritism thing. As you're using different, unless those are spelled out really clearly in the ordinance. That you could follow that way, but
Gotta keep it consistent.
yeah,
I agree.
But just so you know, the way that stuff is built out now, because we can't have the flag lots, when you develop something, you're not allowed to landlock a piece of ground. So the way things have been put in the past, that's why stub roads are put in and all those sorts of things, so that these pieces of ground can be accessed and not have to use flag lots. So I think we would just need to make sure that we're not, like I said, putting ourselves in a position where we're basically forcing people to have flag lots because they're not doing the due diligence on the planning correctly for subdivisions that we've been doing the past 8 years or more.
Yeah, I personally, and this is just my opinion, and you guys could maybe have a different, I wouldn't want to do any new development that wouldn't require, you know what I mean? It would have to be something that's already landlocked or, right? I
Yeah,
don't think I would
exactly.
ever allow people or personally want to subdivide in that nature, assuming it's, avoidable. So I would think it would have to only be existing landlocked pieces, difficult to access.
Yeah, that example you put up there is a perfect one for that. If they wanna sell off that back parcel, nobody can build anything on that right now. Unless we had allowed the flag lot.
So like if you think of the Perez property where he pulled off like that 1 acre,
Yeah,
if you look at the frontage of that, they made him, I think, already deed over the 60 feet to the city of frontage on that property, so that eventually to get to the back part of that lot, they can put a full road in to get to the back of it. So that's one of my big concerns, is just making sure we're not gonna set things up to where they have to have flag lots versus just being proactive to make sure that we're doing stuff the way we have been recently.
let's say consensus is want to
We
exclude.
need to look at that.
Or I don't know.
Sure.
I don't know, Malcolm, if you want us to talk to Ryan first and get his feedback, or before you start diving in and doing that.
Yeah, it'd probably be great if one of you reached out to Ryan and just let me know what his thoughts were, so we don't revisit or do a bunch of work and then take it up to them and they're like, this is exactly why we don't want them, and we're like, oh, we didn't know that. But otherwise, I mean, and again, I guess kind of funny enough, as we talk about updating ordinances, I can't say that I'm familiar with, and Bryce and Sheldon might have some comments on a really robust process for how we want to handle things like this. I mean, there's, how we want to go about updating these. We can do it just like I'm doing it, kind of express to you guys what I'm hearing. If you guys have interest, then we could collaboratively, draft something, and then you guys could recommend it to city council, I think would probably be the process. And then there'd probably be a little bit of discussion there and they would try to vote, eventually on it. Does that sound like a decent process and something that we could do and would be effective?
I think so.
I think your boots on the ground, you have best, I guess, input from the citizens.
Communication,
Yeah.
great, you're on the front lines, that, because I don't think anybody here knows what they need, what's, it's great that you communicate that to us and help us to help the citizens.
Okay.
Thanks.
We can, I'll work with Jace then to see if we can't draft something, and then we'll try, and if you can get Ryan's commentary, and we'll try and make sure that's part of it, and then you guys can discuss it. Hopefully at your next meeting, have something for sure on the oversized structures. we've been talking about that one for a little bit, hopefully on the flag lots, but we'll see. I mean, it's a full month. We should be able to get them both, but the flag lot one, the oversized structure one could be pretty simple, as you saw. The flag lot one is normally a page of ordinance for each city, so it's something to consider, but we could work on it for sure. Okay.
Thanks, Malcolm.
Okay, Sheldon, I'm gonna shoot over to the other meeting if you can use that other link.
Yep, I'll jump on it right now. Thanks, Malcolm.